Before we start, one thing that's going to save you from the angry comment you're about to leave. Mechanics don't warn you away from brands. They warn you away from specific motors. There's no bad brand on this list. Every one of these companies has built legendary engines that run for thousands of hours. What we're talking about today is the specific models and the specific years that mechanics have watched fail on the bench over and over until they learn to tell people one thing: walk away. Whether you're shopping for a used motor right now or you just want to understand which engines earned a bad reputation and why, this is the stuff that saves you from buying somebody else's nightmare for real money. And the first one on the list isn't just a bad engine. It's the engine that killed an entire company. Number 1. The OMC FICT. Back in late 1990s, Evinrude and Johnson, both owned by a company called OMC, were racing to build a direct injection two-stroke to meet tough new emissions rules. The technology they came up with was called FICT. On paper, it was brilliant. In the real world, it was a disaster. And it's the textbook example of how not to do an engine. Here's what actually went wrong in plain terms. The first design didn't pass durability testing. Then new emissions rules landed, and instead of properly re-engineering the motor, OMC tried to retrofit the old design to squeak past the standards. Those rushed modifications weren't carefully engineered, and the rest was catastrophic. The motor started blowing power heads. The worst of them were the 1997 and 1999 models, especially the 60-degree V6 150 and 175 horsepower engines, where the engine's brain, the part that controlled the injection, kept failing. Owners would call in to report a blown engine and get excuses, delays, or flat-out denial on their warranty. The failures and the warranty claims piled up so high, they bankrupted OMC in the year 2000. The engine literally took down the company that built it. A marine dealer who put together a list of the worst outboards ever made summed up the FICT perfectly. He said, "It's not just a bad engine, it's a cautionary tale. And if you see one for sale today, do yourself a favor and keep walking." That's the strongest warning on this whole list, and it's the one mechanics agree on most. If a deal looks great and the motor is a late 90s FICT, the price is low for a reason. Number 2. The early Mercury Optimax. Now, before every Optimax owner fires up the comments, read this whole section, because the nuance is the entire point. The Optimax is Mercury's direct injection two-stroke. And here's a wild piece of history most people don't know. The Optimax system actually started at OMC, the same company that made the FICT. OMC tested it, decided they liked the FICT better, and sold the Optimax design to Mercury. So these two engines are cousins. The early Optimax motors, the ones from the early 2000s, had their share of trouble, mostly around the air compressor system that the direct injection relies on. And some of them earned the nickname Poptimax for blowing up. So the warning is specifically about those early ones. Here's the honest other half, and the mechanics are just as clear about this. The 2006 and newer Optimax motors are solid, reliable engines. Mercury worked the bugs out, and the later ones run beautifully for thousands of hours. So this isn't never buy an Optimax, it's be careful with the early ones, and know that anything 2006 and up is a genuinely good motor. The year matters more than the name. So those are the two direct injection horror stories from the early days. Notice the pattern already. Brand new technology rushed to the market before it was ready. The next one is a case where the technology actually worked, but it came with a bill most people couldn't afford. Number 3. The Yamaha HPDI 250 and 300. Yamaha is one of the most trusted names on the water. Full stop. But their HPDI two-strokes, the high-pressure direct injection 250 and 300 horsepower models, are the ones experienced guys tell you to be careful with. And the reason is very specific. The HPDI fuel system runs at about 600 psi. That's an enormous amount of pressure, industrial-level pressure. And the high-pressure fuel pumps that create it are expensive and they fail. As one mechanic put it, imagine a pump working at that pressure all day. It's eventually going to let go on you, and when it does, you're looking at a serious repair bill. On top of that, these motors were only made for a few years, which means parts are getting harder to find. And you need a really good technician who actually knows the HPDI system to work on one. A guy on The Whole Truth said it plainly. Stay away from the 250 and 300 HPDIs. There seem to be more than the usual problems, and you really need a top tech to keep them running. So the HPDI isn't a junk engine the way the FICT was. It's a capable motor with an expensive Achilles heel and a shrinking support network. For most buyers, that combination just isn't worth the gamble when there are simpler Yamaha 4-strokes that run forever. Number 4. Any outboard with force on the cowling. This one's almost unanimous. Force outboards were built to be cheap, and not cheap in a good way. They were package motors, the kind slapped onto a boat and trailer combo to keep the total price low and move units to first-time buyers who didn't know better. The build quality matched the price. The nickname tells you everything you need to know. Mechanics and old salts call them force anchors because, as one put it, that's about all they're good for, anchoring your mooring buoy. They haven't been made in many years, and company support is long gone. And finding parts to fix one is a treasure hunt. So if you're looking at a cheap used boat and it's got a force hanging off the back, understand that the motor is essentially a disposable item. Budget to replace it, not to maintain it. There's a reason you almost never hear anyone say a good word about them. That's 4 down, and we've gone from a company killer to a motor that's basically a paperweight. The next 2 are interesting because they're genuinely good engines from great companies that earned a bad name in specific years. This is where knowing the exact details really pays off. Number 5. The Yamaha F-Series from 2004 to 2006. Here's another one where I have to be fair because Yamaha 4-strokes are some of the most reliable motors ever built. But there's a specific window, roughly 2004 to 2006, where owners and mechanics widely reported corrosion problems on certain F-Series motors, including internal corrosion that eats the engine from places you can't easily see. Now, the honest part. This is more of a reported pattern than a blanket fact, and I want to be straight with you about that. In the very same forum threads where people warn about the 04 to 06 corrosion, you'll find an owner saying his twin 2006 F-150s have 1,600 hours on them and run perfectly. So it's not that every single one rotted. It's that enough of them had corrosion issues in those years that the pattern became something mechanics watch for. The takeaway is simple and useful. If you're looking at a Yamaha 4-stroke from those specific years, pull the cowling and inspect hard for corrosion, especially around the exhaust passages before you buy. A newer Yamaha, or one from outside that window, is one of the safest bets on the water. It's just those couple of years that earn the side eye. Number 6. The early Mercury Verado, the supercharged Gen 1. The Verado is Mercury's supercharged outboard, and it's a genuinely impressive engine. That supercharger gives you a shove in the back off the line that owners get addicted to. But the first generation, the Gen 1 models from roughly 2004 to 2008, had some teething problems worth knowing about. The big one was the supercharger itself. The early Gen 1 motors had a weak bearing in the supercharger that could fail. There were also sensor and wiring issues around the supercharger that threw alarms. And there's one specific model that mechanics single out, the 350 SCI, which came from Mercury's racing side. That one didn't have knock sensors like the regular 300, which means if you fed it cheap, low-octane gas, it could knock itself to death and you'd be buying a new engine. A lot of them blew up in exactly that way in South Florida. Here's the fair other side. It's the same story as the others. The Gen 2 Verados, 2007 and up, you can spot them by the all-silver lettering on the cowling, fixed most of these issues. And plenty of Gen 1 owners ran theirs well past 1,000 hours with no trouble at all once a couple of updates were done. So the warning is narrow. Be cautious with the very early Gen 1 supercharged Verados. Get the supercharger checked, and never ever feed a 350 SCI cheap gas. The later ones are strong motors. We're almost through the list, and you've probably spotted the real lesson for me. The last one isn't about a motor that breaks. It's about a motor that runs fine but can still leave you stranded. And it's the one most people don't think about at all. Number 7. The Evinrude E-TEC, now that the brand is gone. This one's different, and it's important. The E-TEC is actually a good engine. After the Ficht disaster, Bombardier bought Evinrude, re-engineered that direct injection technology properly, and turned it into the E-TEC, which ran clean and strong. The early ones, before about 2008, had some fuel injector issues, but Evinrude generally stood behind them and fixed them. As an engine, it earned real respect. So why is it on a list of motors to avoid? Because in 2020, the parent company shut Evinrude down completely. They stopped making the motors entirely, and that changes everything for a buyer today, because an engine is only as good as your ability to keep it running. With the brand discontinued, parts are getting harder to find, and the network of dealers who know how to service an E-TEC is shrinking every year. One owner put it well. He said, "You wouldn't hesitate to buy one if the hours were low and there was a reputable service center nearby. But only at a discount." That's exactly right. The E-TEC is the lesson that a great motor with no support behind it becomes a risky motor. If you buy one, buy it cheap, and make sure somebody near you can still work on it. Now, here's the part you actually came for, because knowing what to avoid is only half the job. If those are the 7 that make mechanics wince, what do those same mechanics tell people to go buy? When you corner a marine tech and ask what they'd put on their own boat, 2 names come up again and again, and the reasons are specific. The first is Yamaha, and the word that follows it is always the same: bulletproof. Yamaha built its whole reputation in the early 2000s as the reliable gray motor that finally replaced the smoky old 2-strokes. And it never gave that reputation back. Mechanics recommend Yamaha for 2 concrete reasons beyond just running forever. 1, it holds its value better than anything else on the water, so when you go to sell, a Yamaha puts more money back in your pocket. And 2, there are around 2,000 Yamaha dealers worldwide, so you can get one serviced almost anywhere. The knock on Yamaha is honest. It tends to need servicing a little more often than some rivals. And the fancy features like the joystick control systems get expensive. But if your number 1 priority is a motor that simply starts and runs year after year, the gray motor is the gold standard, and almost every mechanic will tell you so. The second name surprises people, and it's Suzuki. Suzuki doesn't have the flash of Mercury or the badge recognition of Yamaha, which is exactly why it's a smart buy. It earned a quiet cult following among the people who can least afford a breakdown, commercial crabbers and fishing guides, who run Suzukis because they're bulletproof at a better price than Yamaha. There's real engineering behind that. Suzuki's lean burn fuel system makes them some of the most fuel-efficient 4-strokes you can buy. Independent tests regularly give Suzuki the edge in miles per gallon. They go longer between scheduled services than a lot of rivals. And unlike a Honda, a Suzuki doesn't need periodic valve adjustments, which is a real cost saved over the life of the motor. And here's the kicker most people don't know. Suzuki has over 3,000 dealers and service centers worldwide, even more than Yamaha. So you're getting reliability, the best fuel economy, cheaper upkeep, and the biggest support network, usually at a lower price than the Yamaha sitting next to it. For the money, a lot of mechanics quietly think Suzuki is the smartest buy in the dock. The point isn't that those are the only 2 good engines, because Mercury and Honda both build excellent motors too. Mercury especially if you want the latest technology and raw speed. The point is the lesson that runs underneath this entire video. The good buys all share the same 3 things the bad ones lacked: proven technology that's been on the water long enough to sort out the bugs, parts and service you can actually get to, and a company still standing behind the motor. Match those 3 and you almost can't go wrong, whatever badge is on the cowling. So step back and look at what these 7 actually teach you, because it's more valuable than just a list of names to avoid. Almost every motor on here failed for one of 3 reasons: brand new technology that got rushed to market before it was ready, like the Ficht and the early Optimax; a clever design that came with repair costs most owners couldn't stomach, like the HPDI; or a motor that lost the company and the parts network behind it, like the Force and the discontinued E-TEC. That gives you a way to judge any used motor, not just these 7. Ask yourself, was this the first year of some bold new technology? Are the parts expensive and the right mechanic hard to find? Is the company still around to support it? And one more that catches a lot of people. Is it an old carbureted motor that's going to fight modern ethanol fuel every season? Run any engine through those questions, and you'll spot trouble long before you hand over a dime. The honest bottom line is that there has never been a better time to buy an outboard because the engines built in the last 15 years are across the board good to excellent. The landmines are mostly specific, and now you know where they're buried. Buy smart, check the year, make sure you can get it fixed, and let somebody else take the gamble on the motor that killed a company.